discovering him behind here now. There's options in the box. Gustavo brings it 2-0.
Last second, will it be now? Towards the back post, across goal! They have it! The substitute, Ulsan!
이영재가 다시 한번 기적을
Hello, 안녕하세요. Welcome to the K-League United podcast. Matthew Binns here, live after the whistle on a night of Champions League semi-final action, which has seen Ulsan miss out on a place in the final on penalties after a thrilling encounter away to Yokohama F. Marinos. Joining me to go through all the action on a dramatic night in the Nissan Stadium, as well as a roundup of all the best bits of last weekend's K-League action, we have Paul Neat. Paul, how are you doing?
Evening. I'm not too bad. I've been going to the Munsu. I haven't been going to the Munsu. Now I know I'm definitely not going to the Munsu. I've cancelled my tickets down to Ulsan train station. I'm working that weekend instead. Gutted. How about you?
I'm good. Obviously, no loyalties with Ulsan, but obviously there is the nice thought of having a K-League team in the final. It's a thought that's obviously going to be put on hold for another year after semi-final disappointment. But Andrew, you also tuned into the match. How's it going for you first?
Yeah, good. I'm not gonna, I think the tournament ended today. I'm not really interested in the Saudi Arabian leg of this from now on in. So let's just say we saw the best of it, and that was a good way to bow out for the season, I think.
I think so. It was an entertaining match. It was a bit of a wet night in Yokohama, to be honest, for the clash, but it didn't dampen the spirits of the crowd, we could say, who went to watch this. They were treated to an absolute cracker. Even if progression wasn't to be in the end for the travelling Ulsan fans, they're probably going to be licking their wounds this evening, but should they be pleased with their team's performance tonight, Paul?
They can be proud of how they responded, for sure. I mean, it was not the best of starts. I think the first goal for Yokohama was an error. The two centre-backs caught not communicating, and it allowed them in. And then for the second goal as well, Hwang Sok-ho, he stands off the attacker, and he probably thinks if I go tight, then it forces the pass, but the pass made it to Lopez anyway. And then it was 2-0. And then I think it was kind of interesting that the manager took off Igu Song, who didn't have a good first 25 minutes or so. And then Bojanic came on and was just like unbelievable, wasn't he? I was just thinking, why doesn't he start every single game? He was unbelievable. So they can definitely be proud of the response, but then having a man extra for most of this affair and having 40 shots in total, 15 on target, they really should have won that in the end, unfortunately. So it was an exciting way to sort of bow out of the tournament, but they really should be looking at a final in about 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, missed opportunity, perhaps. Do you agree with that, Andrew?
Yeah, like the red card, Kamajima's red card. Yeah, sorry, one time.
Matthew's frozen.
Okay.
He's back.
It's live. We're going to have technical difficulties. I'm sorry. I'm just tuning out there at the...
He's gone again. Andrew, you just talk. Just pick it up.
Yeah. Okay. We'll let Matthew sort out his technical issues there. So, I agree with everything.
But yeah, Andrew, I heard Paul. You may have already started talking. I didn't hear you. So, Andrew, would you agree with Paul?
Yeah, I do. I agree with Paul. So, I mean, look, Kamajima's red card came in the 39th minute. So, Ulsan had 80 plus minutes against 10 men. And apart from a couple of late flourishes towards the end of extra time, Yokohama showed no interest in going forward. And as Paul said, they had 40 shots on goal, 15 on target. And I think I remember reading this just after it went 3-0 to Yokohama that they had 4 shots on target. For the last 80 minutes of the game, Yokohama basically had 1 shot on target in that game. They defended really well. They were fortunate. I know we're going to get onto some of this stuff later. There were balls off the woodwork. There were disallowed goals. Ulsan probably scored enough goals to win 2 or 3 games tonight. But I felt like when Martin Adam came on in the 17th minute, I was going to message you guys in the group chat, just kind of talking about the game as it was going along. It just felt like they lost a little bit of patience. Like they felt like they had to win the game in 90 minutes or something. And again, when you're playing against a side that's not really showing anything other than holding on for dear life, I just think they need to show a little bit more patience there. And the worst thing that could have happened is the game going to penalties. Like, you just don't want to give a sucker an even chance. And whatever advantage that Ulsan had developed for themselves in the 120 odd minutes of that game, certainly after they went to 3-1 on the night, that all went out the window, and just you couldn't afford to let that go to penalties. And I'm sure we'll talk about the penalties in a while as well, but I just had a bad feeling. There was a sinking feeling when they went to penalties, and I just don't. It shouldn't have got that far. Once they went down to 10 men and it went to 3-2 on the night, Ulsan should have not only not lost the game, which would have guaranteed their progression anyway, had even they drawn the game, but they should have won that game, and we should be talking about them in the final. So, like Paul said, they should be proud of the way they came back, because there was a time there in the first 15, 20 minutes when you're thinking, how many is this going to be? It looks so easy for Yokohama. You think this could be 4 or 5, maybe more. But once they got themselves back into the game and it went down to 10 men, I do think that 80 minutes is a long time not to score in a game like this.
Yeah, indeed. You mentioned the offside goals as well there. They did have the ball in the net a couple of times. One of them, I think the ref probably was right on most of the decisions. There was one, the first offside goal, the one that would have given them the lead in the game. In the end, ruled offside because of Ludvigsson in the way of the goalkeeper's vision. That's what was ruled after VAR review. I mean, what was your take on it, Paul? You're shaking your head.
I was looking at the replay, and there's a great angle that the referee had that was shown on the TV feed, and it clearly showed Ludvigsson behind the defender. Therefore, if anybody is blocking the view of the goalkeeper, it's the defender anyway. But he wasn't, and the keeper had a good sight of it. He even got a foot on it, really, didn't he? So it was one of those interesting decisions where the more I looked at it, the more I was thinking, oh, this is going to stand, or this decision is going to go a certain way. You see this in K-League quite a lot, where you convince yourself there's no way the ref will not give this. And then he got disallowed, and I couldn't believe it. That maybe he was trying to even things up, because the penalty was, well, the red card was harsh in the first half. The penalty and the red card was, I thought, was harsh. Handball, yes, because in the end he's on the floor and he's got his arm stretched out and it touches his arm, so you have to give a penalty. But it's not a red card, in my opinion. So maybe the referee in his mind was thinking, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have given that red card. I have to try and even this out a little bit. Maybe, I don't know, subconsciously. But to me, that was a legitimate goal, and Ulsan can feel very hard done by there.
Yeah, no full-time statements from Ulsan making accusations of the ref being a Gimchon fan. But Andrew, I mean,
I thought the referee was going to disallow. It's funny that Paul was saying that, because I'm thinking about the same angle that you're talking about. There was one brilliant shot where, as you said, you could see Ludvigsson was behind the defender, but it felt like the referee had stayed on that angle for long enough that it looked like the goalkeeper's head was turned. And I just wonder at that moment, was the referee thinking the reason why the goalkeeper's head is kind of facing this awkward angle is because his view was blocked. I don't think the goal should be disallowed either. But when I saw that particular clip and I saw how long that the referee stayed on that one angle, for me at that moment, it looked like, I thought it was clear that he was looking for a reason basically to disallow it. And I think the awkward way that the goalkeeper just seemed to be lining himself up. For me, that was the moment I thought where the goal was going to be ruled out. And when you look back on it as well, normally even a situation like this, there's a protest of some sort, but the goalkeeper was protesting the fact that the goal had been given. I don't remember any Yokohama player even suggesting or thinking that there was an offside in that play. So it was very unfortunate, but that angle, I thought that angle was crucial in the end. And I thought once he stayed on that angle as long as he did, I thought it was looking bad for Ulsan.
Yeah, and well, they did have opportunities after, as we've talked about, but in the end, it went down to penalties after a lengthy, after an extra time that seemed to go on for a bit for me. But the penalties, 10 taken, 9 scored. Kim Min-woo, obviously, going to be the one getting the negative headlines in tomorrow's papers for his miss. It was the 5th taker, a tame penalty in the end to the keeper's right, and Ulsan going crashing out of the competition. Yeah, bit of a damp night for literally and metaphorically for Ulsan in the end. Do you think this is going to really impact on their season ahead? Because obviously they got last weekend off. They put everything into this game and things like this, and it is kind of quite a heavy blow to have so early in the season.
I would just say beware JG United, who they play this Sunday, because you've got a wounded animal here. You know, that's going to be looking to lash out at something and somebody. Yeah, they will have gone. Obviously, they've gone into extra time and penalties. There will be some rotation against Jeju, I'm sure, just to give some of those players a little bit of rest, perhaps. But I think there'll be enough in that. Like, perhaps we'll see Bojanic start the game. And I think there'll have to be a reaction. And also, you know, they've got the ACL coming up this year again anyway. So they're going to be probably even more determined to be powerful and get through the group stage wherever they play, you know, as best as possible. So it's kind of the way that this new ACL format works is they've been knocked out in April. They'll be back in it again in September and, you know, try and make up for lost time.
Yeah, I think, I mean, this is the first time the K-League's actually getting to experience it this way. I am interested to see how this does play into the psychology of the team, having got so close, got agonizingly close, and now having to go back. And they're not, you know, leading in the league rather at the moment. They are quite, you know, it's early days still, but it'd be interesting to see how they continue into the weekend. Anything else to add before we move on, Andrew?
Yeah, I was going to say, because I you know, the comments are obviously coming in there on YouTube as well. And again, we talked about this, Matt and I, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we were looking at the first leg, and it is extraordinary that Yokohama are into the final, and we had a good look at them before Christmas. But again, it's something that we've said all along. The Yokohama that we saw was from a different season, and the same obviously with Ulsan. And it's just so strange the way it just works out. Is who would have? I mean, the night that they were beaten, I think it was 2-1 or 2-0 when they were beaten in Incheon that time at the beginning of November. That was their second loss of the group stages. If you would tell me now that in the middle of April, at the end of April, we're just watching them knock Ulsan HT out in the semi-final, I would have told you that there's absolutely no chance that was going to happen. I just had one thing though, because as a former, as a Jeonbuk fan, and one of your former players was on the field today, because you touched on the penalties a second ago. What did you make of Yokohama's 4th penalty scored by a former Ulsan player, Junamano? And he really loved it. It was a great penalty, an absolutely brilliant penalty, and he loved that moment.
Yeah, well, he obviously his exit from Ulsan. He was only at Ulsan on loan. He was well liked, I think, and obviously going to Jeonbuk, it kind of irked the fans there. He felt that he was promised to stay at Ulsan. Ulsan said we're upset because they felt that he was coming, but apparently they didn't bother. According to Junamano, I don't know. There's lots of heat who said what, but obviously he got a bit of a frosty reception last year on the Jeonbuk books, and you could definitely see. I'm going to be honest. There is the club allegiance in me that there was something I found quite satisfying about that. Obviously, I'd love K-League to do well. I want K-League to be showing the best teams on the higher stage. But yeah, I can't deny there was a slight smirk from me when that one went in. It was quite satisfying to watch John Amano enjoy that one. But yeah, no.
What about Lee Chung Young's penalty? You guys must have had an opinion of that one. That was
risky. I think even the keeper wasn't expecting him to do that. I mean, obviously he powered it down the middle, and obviously it wet as well, wet gloves. Keeper probably couldn't get a firm grip on it, but he looked slightly relieved, I think, as he walked away. Bit of a smirk on his face that he knew that he'd got away with something there.
I had a bad feeling about Kim Min-woo's penalty. I think just because of the look, because he had that goal chalked off, and I was just thinking, I don't know about this. Not Kim Min-woo as the fifth penalty. I don't know who else could have taken one, but yeah, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure about that at all. The rest, most were good penalties, apart from Lee Chung Young's. Gosung Bombs, for example, right in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wasn't sure about Kim Min-woo. I just on paper, he's probably one of the ones that you would have to take a penalty. But just after that goal chalked offside, it's like it's not going to be his night. And then he missed the chance, didn't he? As well, he had a glorious chance towards the end of extra time where it seemed harder to miss. He was about 10 yards out, and he managed to sort of smash it wide. So yeah, it's a shame. But I'm sure they'll bounce back, and I'm sure they'll be sort of using this to put into the K-League season, because they do have a game in hand, and if they win that, then in theory they go top of the table. So we'll see.
Is there anything to be said about Joe Yanu as well in goal? I know it's difficult, but 5 penalties. Obviously, none of them are safe. But I thought the first penalty, Anderson Lopez one, I thought Lopez had done himself in a little bit. The 2 or 3 stops along the way. Look, you might get away with one of those, but I thought when Joe Yanu didn't move the first time, I thought there's obviously a great opportunity to save them, because you're presuming that Lopez thinks Joe Yanu is going to dive early. And he never really got near any of the penalties. I know it's difficult to be the goalkeeper. You can't really blame the goalkeeper on this, but the keeper saved one. I probably should have saved another one. But that penalty from Lopez wasn't a great penalty. It was barely away from like the middle of the goal. Of course, if Joey only goes the right way, it's the easiest save you're going to make. Do you think perhaps they could have gotten a little bit more from their goalkeeper in that penalty shootout?
I'm never sure when it comes to penalty shootouts. I feel like, on one hand, keepers should know where the main strikers, the main attackers are going to hit it. But obviously, as you go further through the penalty takers, assuming you're doing it on best to worst, you're probably going to know less about the players' preferences as you get further down, and it becomes harder to save. I do think there is an element of lottery to it, but I think there must be. As you said, he didn't get near any of them. So to me, that either says the research is off, or he's not been given any research on these players, on what their preferences are, what kind of, or where we can expect them to go, or he just had a bit of an unlucky night, really.
Or maybe he had them all written on his bottle, but it got washed off and he couldn't read it with the rain. I don't know.
Who knows? That may well be. We'll have to see. But yeah, I think that's enough really about Ulsan. Ulsan are out of the Champions League for this year, but they will be back in it later this year, because that's how it works. But we'll get to see them in K-League action. Speaking of K-League, there were other games this weekend, and we're going to talk about them after the break.
Fans, we want to hear from you. You're encouraged to email KLU at info@kleagueunited.com or tweet at KLeagueUnited with any questions, comments or reactions. Or ask directly during one of our live shows.
Hello, welcome back to the K-League United podcast. Matthew Binns here. I'm joined by Paul Neat and Andrew Farrell, and we're going to be talking about the K-League action from the weekend. I mainly we're going to be talking about K-League 1. But obviously with Ulsan taking the weekend off in preparation for the Champions League semi-final, which we were talking about before the break, it means that we've got a space on our roster to fit in one more game. And, well, there was certainly one game going on in K-League 2 that we couldn't really take our eyes off. Andrew, you made the short journey to Anyang for what was quite the match, quite well attended.
Yeah, I gotta say, I was anticipating a big occasion before I went. The match was sold out the morning of the game, and we've seen all year. I know, obviously, a small number of games, but when the Blue Wings travel, they are really packing out the away end. And Anyang have like a decent ultra section behind their goal, and they do tend to tip into that day tripper market reasonably well when it comes off the big one-off games like this. The official attendance was 12,323, which was the second highest attendance of the weekend in K-League 1 and K-League 2, beaten only by FC Seoul against Shanbuk Motors. And the weird thing is, well, there's some footage I want to upload onto the K-League United Instagram page, but I didn't really get good audio content. It felt like a cup final. It's like, and I was right on the halfway line in those media seats, and it was almost split 50-50 in terms of certainly like active support. There was a huge number of Blue Wings fans out to the right-hand side, and then there's that small temporary stand to the left where the Anyang fans were. And then like around me, there's a few other Anyang fans who were singing along as well, but it felt pretty close to 50-50. And you know, when two sets of fans are singing at the same time, it doesn't really come across that well. Certainly on my phone, maybe you've got better equipment than I have. So like as an occasion, it definitely lived up to the hype I was expecting it to. But thankfully as a game, it was much better than I thought it was going to be. I was worried it was going to be a bit of a cagey, perhaps a defensive display, two similarly matched sides cancelling each other out. But 4 goals, I'd say both sides feel like they left at least one behind, and 2 coaches got a yellow card in the game, which is always exciting when the referee has to give out yellow cards to managers and coaches, which actually we saw today with Harry Kuehl and the member of his backroom staff as well. It was just one of those games that ended 3-1, and legitimately it could have ended 5-3 along those lines. I think Anyang, kind of just brushing over the goals and stuff, like I think Anyang should be reasonably pleased with how they played. In reality, they're probably at most the 3rd best side in this league. They're very unlikely, you would have thought, to win the league. So to lose at home to the Blue Wings, I don't think it's any sort of disgrace. And they have a front 3, which is going to trouble any other team in this league. Danule, Yagu, and Matthews, really, really good players. And then I think we have to talk about Roo Young-jik, the former North Korean midfielder, 26 caps for North Korea. He's played 255 times in J-League 1 down to J-League 3. According to the Anyang English Twitter page, his nickname is the vacuum cleaner in the dressing room because apparently he cleans up midfield and defense really well. He's a really good player. And when you go down and watch games at K-League 2 level, I don't know if you guys do the same thing, but sometimes you look for the players who you think might be able to make that step up to K-League 1. Certainly he looks like that type of player. He covers a huge amount of grass. He spent a lot of his time pointing at who should be picked up or where the ball should go. He's like having a coach on the field during the 90 minutes. I thought he had a really good game. And the Blue Wings, it seems like they are beginning to settle now. They're top of the table, albeit they play the game more than Anyang. It feels like if Busan, iPark don't get their act together, to use a phrase that Matthew Binns likes to say on the Survivor page, then it feels like the season could be wrapped up with weeks to spare. But if Busan are able to get themselves a little bit more consistent, they're 0-4 at home and they've won 4 from 4 away from home, then we should have a title race going down towards the end of the season. Just last thing, I just want to mention Kim Hyun, because at the start of the season, wondering where the goals were going to come from with Suwon, especially if Fejal Mulic was not hitting form or if he was injured. But this is now 4 goals and 2 assists in 7 matches. His best ever season was with Suwon FC in 2022. He scored 8 goals and 1 assist. And his best season in K-League 2 level was 6 goals and 3 assists for Asan in 21 appearances. So it looks like they've now found the striker alongside Mulic. They can share the load in terms of scoring the goals. And as we'll hear from Mulic later on, I think that rivalry that's developing between the two is a good thing. And the fact that the manager, Yong Gi-hun, does seem to tinker with his team a lot from game to game. So even if you're not starting a big game against FC Anyang or Anyang, so you are going to probably you probably will play the next game. So it looks really positive for Suwon at the moment. I'll say that. They look like they're definitely moving in the right direction. Still a bit shaky at the back, but Kim Joo-chan's got his first goal of the season as well. It feels, it's too early to say it's inevitable that they're going to win the title, especially if Busan produce their 2023 form. But if they don't, it's hard to see a way that anybody can challenge them, I feel.
Yeah, and you mentioned there, Mulic, he did get on the score sheet, and you did get to chat with him after the match. So I've got the interview right here. We'll play it.
It's a big win today.
Thank you, my friend. This is a very important win. Now we are first on the table, so I think we just have to keep going. 4 wins in a row, we go for 5. Continue that way, I hope.
And you just come straight from the changing room, obviously. So how is the atmosphere amongst all the other players?
I think the atmosphere is amazing until now. We are doing great. We are winning, so I just hope it's going to continue like that, and just hope with positive results.
And what about your own performance then? So you scored the 3rd goal and looked like it was the most crucial goal because obviously Anyang came back a little bit towards the end. So what was that feeling like for you?
I had 2 chances. Thank God I scored the second one. The first one I could score also. Maybe it was a little bit harder, but thank God I scored, and again my confidence back. I hope to continue that way.
And obviously now, because you said Suwon are playing so well, 4 wins in a row, so obviously playing is tough because everybody wants to play now, and Kim Hyun scored today and you scored today. So just generally, how's like the atmosphere amongst the players as the team does so much better than last season?
I think the atmosphere is good, especially also like the coach is changing every week. Sometimes you change 2-3 players. Maybe one week you are starting, next week not. But the good thing is the atmosphere is still the same, Even the players, I start also from me. Even I don't start, and maybe I will play, maybe I will go in, I do my job. So everybody is doing good, So you can't complain. If you want to go in first division, you can't have a negative atmosphere inside the team. We had these things last year, and that's why we went down. So I hope to stay like this, continue this way. Everybody is doing a great job, and the atmosphere in the dressing room is amazing. We are like family, one team.
So obviously next Sunday then you're playing against Gyeongnam as well, so hopefully another opportunity next Sunday maybe to score another goal for yourself.
Yeah, I hope I'm going to continue this way, game by game. I hope to do so. I train hard, so I believe I'm going to do it.
Just last couple of questions for you, because obviously the atmosphere was amazing, the home fans and the away fans, but as an away team player, what is it like to score in front of all of these Suwon fans? Because every stadium that you go to, they just pack out everywhere that you've been.
Yes, everywhere. Even when we go away games, we only see our fans. I don't see much from the home fans, but it's amazing. It's a very good feeling, and it makes you go. It makes you to continue that way. You want it every game more and more.
Right, and I guess that's part of your celebration. It was funny just seeing like the shirt coming off, like just that great release of emotion.
Yes, I was on fire. This is me,
And then just last question for you. This might sound like an obvious one because the Blue Wings are such a big club, but is the goal automatic promotion at the end of the season?
Yes, we go for that. We work for that, and I believe we can do it. We can achieve the goal.
Well, look, we wish you all the best. Hopefully we can talk to you again next month or so. The Blue Wings continue their spell at the top of the table.
Thank you. I wish you all the best too. Thank you.
Mulic there from Suwon Samsung Blue Wings, enjoying his win against FC Anyang. Where do you interview, Andrew? Last couple of interviews always been like out on the side of the pitch in the moat.
That was an unusual one. So Anyang's a difficult place to go for the media section for anybody who's listening, never been there before. It's the only ground I've ever been to as well where there's absolutely no shade for the media. I know nobody cares. Like if your laptop gets wet, people are not going to be interested in that kind of complaining. But it's like it threatened to rain a number of times. Look, what happens here if it starts to rain? Like, do we just put our laptops away? Like, there's nowhere to go. Basically, there's nowhere to go. And they also changed the post-match press conference location from last season. So I was finishing writing up the match report, which you can read, of course, on KLeagueUnited.com. But when I went back to where the post-match press conference was last season, that room is now just for the photographers. And I couldn't find where I was looking for. And this is a bit of a running theme in some of these K-League grounds where you ask somebody where you should go. and there's a bit of confusion, and you end up not finding out where you need to go. So I made my way towards the Suwon dugout, or sorry, the Suwon changing rooms, hoping to see the press manager I saw last season. And then she eventually came by, and I asked her about interviewing Mulic, and she went, yes, just wait here. But I wanted to interview him on the running track because the fans were still leaving the stadium at that point. And it might have been like, especially for the photograph, I think it would look like a cool photograph to see like the Blue Wings fans leaving. Maybe some of them are waving at Mulic, whatever. But she told me to come down into this moat, basically, like under the stand, and all the local journalists were there as well. And I've never had this experience before where we had to stand against the wall and basically clap Young Hyundai. We had to watch him leave for the bus, and we all had to sort of bow and give our chukadrimi da to him. And it was odd because we're not cheerleaders, we're not fans. We felt like we had to give this sort of attention to the manager. And then just as a side note, I saw EKJ walking by. I was just kind of wondering what his emotion was going to be like. I mean, obviously, this is not where EKJ expected his career to be at this point. Like, he was playing national team football not that long ago. Look, you can't read too much into a face, but he had a scarrel. There's no doubt about it. He was an unused sub on the day. I kind of enjoyed watching him go by. But yeah, as all the players went by, we had to kind of bow a little bit and, applaud them and congratulate them on their result. So then Mulic came along. He was delighted to the interview. I think he was surprised that he was being told he had to do an interview. And just for reference, the one interview that looks like it's going to be hard to get this year would be Kim Ju-chan's, the 20-year-old attacking player. He is the one that every game I've been to now, last season and this season, he's the one that the media want to talk to the most. So we'll see how it goes. I'll try and go back next month. They're playing against Cheonan on a Saturday, a rare Saturday night game for the Blue Wings. So I'll try and go and watch that game and hopefully pick up a interview. Actually, Mulic is a great guy because Paul said that too. And I thought it was funny when he called himself crazy. He's got a good sense of humor, especially when he's talking about taking off his shirt and goal celebration. He'd be a good guy to get on the show again, I'm sure.
Indeed, yeah, I certainly enjoyed it when he was on the previous time. So perhaps now, Suwon on the up, we can look forward to more interviews with some Suwon players. But we're going to look up to K-League One now, and there was a wealth of action. You mentioned at the top there about the only other game with a higher attendance than the Anyang one was the one in FC Seoul. 28,000 attending to watch Jeonbuk, a recovering Jeonbuk, take on FC Seoul. They've seen it happen 21 times before. Jeonbuk somehow don't lose, but they thought 22nd time will be the charm. And, well, it finished 3-2 to Jeonbuk. Quelle surprise.
No, it wasn't. I picked Jeonbuk in Survivor.
Yeah, so it's you, basically.
I knew it.
I mean, while the result didn't look very surprising, this game was actually really, really good. This is a fantastic match for a neutral. Obviously, Seoul fans probably didn't leave very happy at the end of it, but who cares about them? Okay, well, I should have a bit of non-bias here, but obviously it got off to the worst start for Seoul. They had a goalkeeper error when the ball was being passed back across the back line. Chae-Chul-won not really keeping an eye on the advancing Son Min-kyu, taking an extra touch, looking over to his defender while Son Min-kyu slid in to take the lead on 6 minutes. It's a problem that's plagued FC Seoul for a while now, and it's plagued them across managers. It's not even a managerial issue. I thought Kim Ki-dong would probably have looked to stop this, but it's just something that happens time and time again with FC Seoul. They think we've got to play it across the back here, and well, thank you very much, Son Min-kyu, giving Jeonbuk the early lead, but it didn't last long. FC Seoul equalising through former Jeonbuk player Stanislav Ilyachenko. What Jeonbuk would do to have a player like him at this point in time up front. But yeah, great header from him, and then FC Seoul quickly getting the heads in front. Chae-jun doing very well down the right hand side to keep the ball in play, played it up to Cho Young-uk, who pulled it back across the byline for Palosevic to tap in 2-1. And at this point, like, we're seeing flashes of FC Seoul's potential. I know there was a mistake that led to that opening goal, but they were really looking quite good. Fortunately for the away team, so was Son Min-kyu, who before he assisted the equaliser, he had also created quite a couple of other chances as well, and he looked dangerous all throughout the match. And he eventually played through Lee Yong-jae just before the break, who finished quite well to make it 2-2. But then, if you haven't seen this doing the rounds on social media, well, don't leave us right now. It's a live show. That'll be rude. But please do pause the podcast if you're listening and go and find this goal. 21-year-old Jeon Byung-kwan, one of a couple of players signed from Daejeon, maybe the player that headlines weren't looking at the beginning of the season. Kim Jin-soo plays the ball in. Jeon Byung-kwan at the edge of the area, 21 years old. It's been 60 minutes. He should have been taken off after 6. He's under 22. What are they doing? And an incredible overhead kick. Like, I don't know. I mean, we could probably start saying, oh, is it a fluke? 9 times out of 10, you wouldn't do it. Who cares? That was absolutely incredible goal. And you can see in just everybody. I've not watched a replay that many times in a while, and I keep watching it, and I notice something different every time in the reactions of the players. Just how shocked everybody is, how ecstatic it is, how the managers are all lining up to high five him. I'm quite also impressed with Son Min-kyu. I mean, he had a man of the match performance. He got that assist, he got that goal, but you also see the way he like lifts up Jeon Byung-kwan after the goal. He's trying to get the crowd to cheer him, and you can see that he's taking on kind of this leadership kind of attributes as well, which I think is really fitting. But yeah, great goal. I thought FC Seoul, they still played well. I thought Jeonbuk played well. It was really end-to-end. They're talking about yellow cards being given to coaches. Well, Cho Sung-hwan rolling back the years, currently an interim coach alongside Park Won-jae. Cho Sung-hwan used to come on with a yellow card back in 2016. He's getting one as well for arguing with the ref. But all in all, a great day out. I thought as well there was just good performances all over the pitch from Jeonbuk, right down to the goalkeeper, former Anyang man, who Jeon Min-gi. He had some great reactionary saves. I've really enjoyed seeing him in net this season. I don't know whether he's the best of the three the keepers Jeonbuk have at the moment, technically, but he's the best keeper for that team. You see the way he marshals that defense. You see the way he's not afraid to shout at people, and you think how much this is perhaps could benefit Jeonbuk going forward. I know only early days, but yeah, it's a really good match, end to end. FC Seoul perhaps feeling a bit hard done by, but I mean, what a goal to lose out to, I'm sure, is what they would say.
Well, you mentioned the keepers, Matthew, and Andrew Berger's commented in the YouTube comments about Baek Jong-bom getting a look in at FC Seoul. The two keepers, I think, well, obvious with Jeonbuk, but with Seoul to a certain extent as well, are playing because the usual number ones are with the under-23 squad. Now, I reckon Choi Chol-won has started the season for Seoul because Kim Ki-dong probably knew that Baek Jong-bom will be leaving for the WAF and the under-23 Asian Cup, and so probably didn't want that disruption. And then you have Jeong Min-gi, who's in there. He's had to be very patient with, to get an opportunity. He started his first season at Jeonbuk as the first choice, but then he soon lost his place. But now, even though they have to play him, they haven't really got that many other options at the moment. He's performing very, very well. Choi Chol-won, though, even before the mistake that he made for the goal, he had a chance to catch a very soft ball across, and he manages to flap at it, and it goes out for a corner. So there were warning signs even before that. It's just this. It's just really funny that, like you said, this got to play it across the back. It's like there are times when you just need to launch it. Mm-hmm. He gets the ball back there. He should just launch that. 6 minutes in, let's not take any risks. What did you think was going to happen? So interesting. It's just, yeah. Go on.
No. Yeah, it's interesting. I just don't know how it can continue between managers. I don't think.
The goalie coach probably needs to sort of
Yeah.
talk to the keepers a bit more, because they need to learn when you can play out from the back, when you can take it across your own box and play it out to the other fullback, and when you have to just launch it. Somebody obviously hasn't told him. Kwon Wang Yu plays the ball back, right? He's looking at the goalkeeper across the box. He will have seen Song Min-gyu, surely. Certainly before the goalkeeper does. He should shout at him. He should shout, or somebody else should tell him that the pass isn't on to the goalkeeper. Surely the other centre-back partner should have looked at him and said, no, it's not on. Just get rid of it. You know what I mean? It's just probably a lack of communication all across the back line and with the goalkeeper. So I don't know. It's just they obviously, I think once Baek Jong-bom comes back from the Under-23 Asian Cup, because Korea obviously are still in it at the time of recording this. They play very late Thursday night into Friday morning against Indonesia. So if they're still in it, South Korea, then obviously they'll have to wait. But when he comes back, I think he will probably eventually get the nod and will be Seoul's first choice goalkeeper again.
Yeah, I mean, what I'd say is I don't know how much he's going to play into Kim Ki-dong's tactics. So one thing I thought with Seoul last season when they were doing with it was also just pointless, because they were so slow in transition last year that it was like, well, why are you bothering? Like you're putting yourself in danger and then you don't do anything with it. The whole point is to create that space to move into, and they don't usually do it. Obviously, this year they've got Kim Ki-dong. He might be preferring that. It might be something they want to do. But yeah, if you haven't got the players to do it, if you haven't got the players who can communicate, just play it simply, surely. But anyway, enough of that match. That was an absolute belter, though. I mean, my bias is aside. That really.
I thought you were going to. I was expecting to jump in with a little bit more on your. How do you feel as a Jeonbuk fan now? Like things have changed or have shifted so much in that club in the last few weeks or so, with Dan Petrescu moving on, and then you get a result like this. So do you feel a little bit brighter for the future, the rest of the season, next month?
The logical part of me says I shouldn't, right? It feels like, no, don't get ahead of yourself. It's still an interim team. There are still lots of things going wrong. They were still making defensive mistakes in that game. But it was such a momentous win in terms of where Jeonbuk are at the moment. It always seems that they get them against FC Seoul, or they can always get the big results against FC Seoul when they need. And obviously there is that bit of edge between the two teams, probably more so from Jeonbuk's side than the Seoul side, but there is a bit of a rivalry between the two teams. I just think it was kind of teed up the way they won it, the goals that they won it with. Certain players coming to the fore. I think it wasn't a perfect performance. There's still lots of things to work on, but it was a galvanizing performance, and it definitely has sold me a little bit. It hasn't sold me on the managers. Obviously, they're interim. I'm not trying to get too carried away, but it's definitely lifted the mood for me, and I'm sure for many, many other fans. It definitely seems a lot more positive from the Jeonbuk support after that. So. Yeah, sure, probably getting carried away, but I mean, it's football. We've got to enjoy it at some point, haven't we? Speaking of enjoyable games,
yes,
Paul, you and I, we were glued to a screen.
Two screens, very close,
just a matter of feet away from two screens for 90 minutes, where we watched Jeju take on Suwon FC. Suwon FC coming out victors in the end, though, Paul. I mean, you were the lead commentator on it. I helped sometimes.
No, you were very good. You were my man of the match, in fact. Actually, because I just said what was happening, so I had to watch the highlights back again because I didn't remember anything that happened. So I had to go back and watch it again, because when you're commentating on it, I think you sort of stop looking at why and just looking at what. You know what I mean? So, but I think what I would say is that the game played out kind of how you thought it would, Matthew. That Jeju kind of the game in itself was kind of a microcosm of what's happened to Jeju's season so far. They were in a false position by being 1-0 up, and they didn't really offer much. I thought Jonathan looked very busy, but he was always very deep, and he didn't really offer a great deal of a threat, as a striker. I thought him and Hayes as the top two were an interesting combination. Neither are really the one. They were either too far apart or they weren't sort of high up the pitch enough. But really, it's a game of two halves. It's certainly in front of goal. Suwon failed to get a single shot on target in the first half, but then managed to outshoot and get more shots on target than Jeju did in the second half. And then it was all. I always got the feeling that Suwon were going to do something. You know, when they have on the bench people like Ji and Lee Sung-woo, you kind of expect it to happen. We knew it was going to happen, didn't we, at some point? Yes. And then Lee Sung-woo was just really good. He is so tidy and busy at the same time, and composed and brave in and around the box. He tries things that other players don't normally try. And it was his persistence down that, basically towards the touchline, the byline, sorry, that won the penalty. And he was calm enough. He was the coolest man in the stadium to then, deep into time added on to put the ball down and put it away. Obviously, Jeju, not the best of performances for them because they did have some opportunities. I mean, Sojin Soo came on at half time, hit the post, but then they had players like Jin Sung-uk was just dithering in the box. He had a few chances where he really should have been a bit sharper. And then Italo's red card, he was nibbling at people all afternoon, wasn't he? There was like a thing with Anderson for a lot of the time. You would think with them being Brazilian, they might be mates, but I don't know. It didn't seem like they were at all. There was sort of a bit of argy-bargy with those two. And then he's already on a yellow card. You got to be smarter. He wasn't, and that's at 1-1. And then you just, I don't know, that boost that Suwon might have felt that they needed, they got it. They had an extra man for the last sort of 5 minutes or so. And I've watched back the highlights again, and I'm still not sure that Young means it when that goal. It's a great finish if he means it. I don't think he does, though. What do you think?
I don't want to deny it him. It was a nice goal, but I mean, come on. I don't think he meant that. There was a lot of jabbiness about it. It was a shot. It came out wide to him, and it was very tight angle. It looked like a cross. It looked prime for a cross, and then it just didn't go that direction. It went straight into the far top corner beyond the keeper's reach.
Good goal.
Definitely meant it.
Definitely meant it. Okay, I'm not sure he did, but in the end, it didn't matter. And Suwon back-to-back wins for the first time in a year. They haven't done that in K-League 1 since April last year. So credit to them. I'm happy to see the manager, a new manager, a young manager, given a job at this level, and he seems to be doing all right. They're up to fifth now, heading into the weekend's games, and they look like they were good value. I thought for the win.
Yeah, I thought so. Susie, you heard my thoughts on it, I think, as well. Very close. But yeah, I thought Suwon they did well. They were they didn't deserve anything in that first half. They were lacking creativity. They were lackluster. They were letting Jeju really take control of that match, and then just two inspired subs at half time. I mean, how inspired can they really be when you've got Ji Dong-won and Lee Sung-woo? They're going to change any game theoretically. But we have seen with Suwon, like when they've gone down only a few weeks back, the way they capitulated against Gimcheon, the way they've lost to Ulsan as well recently. So it was quite good to see them actually turn a result around. I think that will give them the biggest boost from all of this. Those two changes, it challenged Jeju, and Jeju, as we discussed before the match, we discussed when we were on air, like Jeju are really insecure in the center of the park. They tend to lose a lot of possession very easily. They're quite quick on the counter, but they lose possession so quickly, and they really struggle in the air. They're one of the teams that have low success rate when it comes to, they've got a lot of aerial duels. They do a lot of defending in the air, but they've got kind of a bang average success rate for it. You look at any of the highlights from the recent Jeju games, and nearly all the goals have been from crosses into the box. So Suwon didn't get a cross in here. Maybe Eong's was going to be the one that was going to go in if it hadn't it go in off another player if he hadn't gone in the back of the net. But I think it was really good substitutions from Suwon. Good. They've got a win, but they fought for that win, and I think that's going to do them well in the long run. There was another big result. Yes, I've lost another life in Survivor. My anti-Gangwon approach has finally failed me because Gangwon FC treated the travelling Incheon fans to a heavy defeat. Andrew?
I just love the way, as I said, like you mentioned before, like in the Survivor comment section, the words you use were, if they don't get their act together, now they're fourth. They're fourth in the table. Can you believe it? And yes, you said you've lost 2 lives based on Gangwon. Certainly, I don't feel like I'm the right. What?
I can't do it again. I've got to choose something. We'll find out at the end of this podcast. But
done, totally done. Yeah. Look, I feel like I'm the wrong person to talk about this game. I'd like to open the floor to the representatives from Incheon who made it. It's an awkward enough trip from Incheon to Chuncheon, where Gangwon FC played about half the games this season, because you got to go right through the middle of Seoul. But unfortunately, it's just us here for today. But I am wary of the presence of a well-known Incheon fan commenting as well in this, so I'm gonna have to be a little bit careful with what I say. But as we were saying, yes, Incheon are down to 9th. They were well beaten on Sunday afternoon. Gangwon, meanwhile, as we said, are up to 4th. Compared to the team last season, which we struggled to watch, they basically slept their way to 10th spot in K-League 1. Only Ulsan HT have scored more goals than Gangwon this season, but the 14 that they've conceded is the worst in the league. Who would have thought really that Gangwon FC are the great entertainers of Korean football? I'm sure we'll have the Incheon angle in the next couple of weeks, possibly next week. So I want to talk about this more from the Gangwon point of view, because, well, ultimately they won the game. And it has to be said that even if Incheon were a shambles, especially the last few minutes of the first half, when Incheon were at their absolute worst, some of the football that Gangwon played was unbelievably exciting. It was exhilarating stuff. It was a great watch. If anybody hasn't, even check out the highlights of the goals that Gangwon scored. The opening scoring in 19 minutes, Iago Carello was given too much space at the edge of the area between Oban Sok and Maciej Czarnic. He turned to his right and he fired this unstoppable shot past Min Sung-joon, the Incheon goal. It was a really good finish, actually. I'm sure a lot of the Incheon fans might be looking at defending, especially the space that Iago was given for pretty much the entire game. But it was a really, really good finish. He had an incredible game. He scored a hat-trick, and you could see throughout his time on the pitch that how much trouble the Incheon centre-backs had with dealing with him. And possibly Oban Sok. Look, it's not his fault that they lost the game 4-1 in the end, but you wonder at 35, is his age beginning to show a little bit now? Maybe having him, in part of a back three with 2 fullbacks like that, it can hide him a little bit, but he was badly exposed on Sunday. And then deep into first half stoppage time, Gangwon really turned the screw, and this was helped by some really erratic defending from Incheon. Unfortunately, Oban Sok is responsible for the second goal as well. He left the pass short just after Gerson Fernandez nearly made it 1-1, but Oban Sok leaves the pass short. Gangwon break, which they did quite often the first half in this game. They broke 3-on-3. Matic had to cover the marauding Yang Min-yak, who had a really big game overall as well. Oban Sok was left in no man's land, leaving Iago completely unmarked, which is something which has happened numerous times in this game. The slam home a second. Look, at a terrible time to concede a goal in first half, added on time. You're thinking from the Incheon point of view, just get to the changing rooms, regroup, go again, 2-0. It's not the end of the world, but unbelievably, they conceded another goal. And again, the Incheon fans might pull this apart, but from a neutral point of view, it was a really, really fun goal to watch. Another ball lost in midfield. This time, Gangwon break 4-on-4. Iago, again, heavily involved. He finds Yang Min-yak, who was involved in the second goal. His back heel is a piece of art. Hang that thing up in the Louvre. Beautiful pass to Kimi Sok finished the goal. Hwang Mun-gi tears down the right wing. Cross first time. Kimi Sok powers the header home. Game over. Really, really fun stuff. And then the second half, Hwang Mun-gi was involved in the fourth goal. Again, he causes havoc down the right. his cross finds an unmarked Yagu. We've heard that one before, and he blasts home his third of the game. Stefan Magosa pulled one back for Incheon in the 80th minute, and he had some things to say on Instagram or Twitter, I think it was, by the end game. Basically, just it was a disappointing performance, which obviously it was. Pressure's coming on the manager now, but it is worth remembering that last season, Incheon were 10th after 16 rounds of the 2023 season, and they are not unfamiliar with getting hammered early on in the season. So perhaps this is a sign that things are going to get better for them. But for Gangwon, just to wrap up on them, like, not only did they come to be the side that finished above them, well above them in the table last season, but actually that 3-goal difference actually gives them a positive goal difference for the entire season. Their next two fixtures, though, are Gimcheon Sangmu, who are second away from home, followed by Pohang Steelers, who are top at home. I don't know about you guys, but I get the feeling that Gangwon have a bit of a free hit here, and 2 losses wouldn't be a disgrace. But I'd imagine they're fourth in the table. I imagine they're looking at this thinking 1 point from 6 is the minimum that we should be targeting now. So a great start for Gangwon. Do not bet against him in Survivor. The lesson has been learned.
Yes, it's been learned the hard way indeed. And yeah, as you said there, Incheon, they have been in this position before. They are used to getting hammered early in the league. I'm sure the Incheon fans as well are used to getting hammered early on in the league as well. You got to do something when you're in Chuncheon. But no, we will have Luke on in due course to talk about Incheon. Probably he doesn't know he's been invited yet, but he'll be on. We'll drag him on to pull us through this Incheon misery. I have seen though that a lot of Incheon fans are talking about Cho Sung Hwan, whether he should be staying, whether he should be leaving. I would like to probably leave that question to a later podcast though on that one, when we've got more an expert opinion on the matter. Speaking of expert opinions, Dejon, we're in action. We've got Paul Neat here, and after a weekend that saw Suwon and Anyang 3-1, we saw John Book in a Seoul and Entend affair 3-2. We saw 4 goals against Incheon. We saw Suwon with a comeback. Tell me, Dejon, Daegu, how did it go?
0-0. The day derby. The two teams that need to face facts and just admit that this is a relegation battle now. I know it's still early days, only 8 games played, but 6 points for Daejeon. They sit bottom. Daegu 10th, only a point better off. It's not the starts that they would have wanted, but to get the excuses in for Daejeon, they have had a lot of injuries. And from what I understand, this is one of the reasons why the club are sticking with the manager for the time being. They want to wait and see if things improve when he does have his full team available, because he hasn't had his full squad available yet at all, and he's lost players since the start of the season through injury. So, I think just this game, they actually played okay. They actually did all right. They were a bit unlucky in some situations where Lapa, he started again. He started in the FA Cup in the midweek before that. He scored, albeit against a K4 team, but he scored. And then he started this game as his first league start. And he had a couple of half chances, and they did look to try and get the ball into him. But Daegu kind of did defend quite well against him. They are going to have to try and get the ball in the air to him, though, from out wide or from set pieces. They didn't do a lot of that in this game. And I think just there were some bright moments, but they look low on confidence, and it's starting to weigh on them a little bit. They are, I think, not sure what they are anymore, because they had a certain way of playing last year, and I've talked about this before, but they obviously wanted to change, to go for a back 4, build out from the back, go away from counter-attacking style of football. Then they lost Choi Min very, very late towards the end of the pre-season sort of spell. And they should have faced facts, really, and thought, well, you can't replace him. And the whole system was built around him in that Maverick-style ball-playing centre-back. But they just haven't got anybody that can do that like him. And we saw them counter-attack against Ulsan, and they won. But they just still... They've had bad luck, but they've also just not performed well over the course of whole games. And this one against Daegu, they were lucky not to concede early on. The keeper made a really strange error where he gives the ball away. Luckily for them, it lands to a very young Daegu player and he gets his shot wide. They have a goal chalked off towards the end. It was a bit of a comedy goal. If it would have counted, it kind of ricocheted off the keeper and then off Kim Sung-dae's shin and goes in. But there was somebody offside in the build-up to it, so it didn't count. And it was one of those games where it was like, well, it's the two teams at the bottom end of the table. There's no Cezinha, no Edgar for Daegu. You felt like if you are going to beat Daegu, it's in these kind of games where they don't have their big players that can dig them out of holes. And in the end, the draw felt like a defeat. And no wins in 3, 1 win all season, and they've got FC Seoul at home. They've got 2 home games coming up in the space of a week. Seoul on Saturday, and then Gimcheon on Tuesday. I know Gimcheon are flying, but you have to look at 4 points from 6 there because otherwise the manager is going to have to answer some serious questions from the fans who are starting to turn. I've been reading the forum, and it's becoming a little bit of a sensitive issue on there of like, how can you say that we should get rid of him? How can you not say we shouldn't get rid of him? Well, this kind of thing. He may do what Che did at Daegu, Che Won-kwon, and just decide to resign. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that. But yeah, it felt like a defeat. A point gained in the end, but they're still bottom of the league, and now they have to try and really find some inspiration from somewhere and get their season up and running.
Indeed, and you mentioned there, Daegu, about changing their manager. Well, we had our very own Jung Mu-yeol in the mix zone, and he spoke to Go Jae-hyun about, well, his form for Daegu this season and also the managerial change. So let's have a listen to what Mu-yeol had to, what Go Jae-hyun had to say to Mu-yeol.
Daegu FC and Daejeon Hana Citizen shared the spoils in the round 8 of K-League 1 after a goalless draw at DGB Daegu Park. And I'm joined by Daegu FC forward Go Jae-hyun. And it was another draw at home this afternoon. This isn't the result Daegu Dev wanted. How are you feeling after the game?
First of all, we prepared well to get a win at home and we tried our best, but nevertheless, we were unable to win the game. We're really sorry to the fans. But when we were on the pitch, we could see ourselves pulling together to turn things around, which is a positive thing moving forward. Anyway, we need to give the fans an overdue win as soon as possible.
We cannot talk about manager Che Won-kwon's resignation. After Daegu losing to Cheongju on midweek's cup tie, manager Che Won-kwon stepped down from his post. How the team reacted to the news and what's the atmosphere like in the dressing room?
Firstly, the manager had spent 12 years at the club and, for me, I spent 7 years working with him, so I just feel really sorry. Really sorry and gutted. If we'd done even just a little bit better, if results were better, then this wouldn't have happened. So first of all, I just want to say how sorry I am. But this is how professional football works, where you'll meet people and have to say goodbye, but it's not something that's easy to get used to. It's been a difficult time for us, but we have lots of games to play, and as the manager said, we are going to keep fighting until the end of the season and don't give up.
이렇게 말씀해 주셨는데 감독님을 위해서라도 포기하지 않고 저희가 경기장에서
That's what the manager said. So we have to keep going for him. We have to pay him back, I think. That's what we have to do. The manager made the decision for us, and so we have to keep going for him.
Personally, it must be frustrating for you not being able to getting on the score sheet this season. Today you had also good chance in the first half, but couldn't find the target.
일단 득점을 해야 되는데
I need to score goals, but it's not happening for me at the moment. I'm really frustrated as well and feel the heavy responsibility. Even when I look around, I can't really ask anyone else for help. We've had some younger lads come in, but it'd be daft to ask them to do it or help me, and it has to be me who needs to get the job done.
바라는 것 자체가 말도 안 되는 거고 제가 해야 된다고 항상 느끼고 생각하고 있는 지금인데
Now I just want to get that first goal and help the team, and when I do get that first goal, then my confidence will improve again. It was the same last season. I went through a difficult spell, and so I just need to find that momentum quickly.
또 좋은 페이스를 찾을 것 같은데 그 페이스를 찾기까지 조금 빨리 찾아야 될 것 같아요. 근데
But to do that on the pitch, I need to give 100% in training every day and really pour everything into it. There's no other way than to keep training and challenging myself every day.
훈련하고 도전하고 계속 도전할 생각입니다.
And here comes the last question. So today the likes of Jung Jae-sang, Park Jae-hyun, some youngsters from the B team stepped up and did a pretty good job on the pitch. How did you see this?
일단 젊은 친구들이 들어와서 정말 좋은 에너지를 지금 넣어주고 있고
I think the younger lads brought a good energy, and like I said earlier, these young players have come in, but I can't expect them to help me or the team immediately. As an older player as well as the vice captain, I need to take more responsibility and help them out on the pitch. They have brought a really good energy, and so I'm really thankful to them for that, and I'd like to take them out for a meal. It is my responsibility to help them to do well.
제가 해내야 될 것 같아요. 네, 그런 책임감이 큰 것 같아요.
Thank you for your time.
감사합니다.
Go Jae-hyun there speaking with Jung Moo-yeol after Daegu's 0-0 draw with Daejeon Hana-Sitsun. There was one more game in K-League 1 this weekend. Top of the table clash between Pohang Steelers and Gimcheon Sangmu. Whew. Andrew, did you catch any of this?
I did. Because it started at the same time as the Seoul Jeonbuk game. As you'll know, they were both the early starts on Saturday, and I was thinking of going down to this game. I remember thinking of it last week. Just I go to Sangam too often. I was thinking at most is one trip a season to the Pohang Steel Yard, and this first against second, and I thought the weather was going to be nice. I'm glad he didn't go because obviously it was absolutely disgraceful on Saturday, all over the country. But I sat on the couch over there and I was flicking through the two games, and I ended up missing two of the first three goals in the Seoul Jeonbuk game. And then I decided not to switch channels anymore. Nothing happened when I was watching the game in Pohang. I don't care about saying it as bluntly as that. I made a big mistake of wasting any time watching the first 20 or so minutes of that game. I wish I watched all of the Seoul Jeonbuk game instead. What I will say, though, is that it's a great result for Gimcheon, and my preseason prediction is already out the window. But maybe going to penalties isn't going to be any sort of an advantage to Ulsan, but I'm sure when they have their feet up at the weekend, they must have been pretty happy to see that they didn't lose any further ground in the title race.
Yeah, 0-0. It was a bit of a difficult watch in the end. I mean, I don't think you caught any of it as well, Paul. I know you were on your way back as well from commentary duty for that game.
Yeah, I just think it was a tale of two goalkeepers, because it was Hwang In-jae, who returned from Gimcheon for the start of 2023 and was ever present for the Steelers last year. Had some shaky moments in a Gimcheon shirt, errors in the playoffs, and then Kang Hyun-moo, who was playing for Gimcheon on loan from Pohang and sort of be coming back to the Steel Yard in the summer. So they both were left quite happy. Both kept a clean sheet. Didn't have much to do, either of them, really. So yeah, I suppose it was kind of an audition, perhaps, for Kang Hyun-moo before he comes back, to sort of say, "Hey, don't forget about me. I'll be back in the summer." But he didn't really do much anyway. So,
indeed. Well, that's kind of where we are with the K-League from the weekend. Obviously, there was K-League 2 as well. We're not going to be going into, but just to run through all the results in K-League 2 from the weekend, we had Bucheon FC 1995. They lost 3-1 at home to Busan iPark. Songnam, they lost to Chongbuk Chongju 2-1. As we have already spoken about, Anyang losing at home 3-1 to Suwon Samsung Blue Wings. And Sangrinas also on a home defeat, 2-1 to Gimpo Citizen, but Gyeongnam actually tasting a victory at home with a 2-1 win over Seoul Ilan. The final game that weekend was a 1-1 draw between Chungnam Asan and Jeonnam Dragons. And then in K-League 1, as we've gone through, we had what did we have? Yes, I know what we had. Suwon FC 2-1 against Jeju. Pohang Steelers 0, Gimcheon Sangmu 0, FC Seoul 2, Jeonbuk 3, Gangwon 4, Incheon 1, and Daegu 0, Daejeon Hana Citizen 0. We'll have a very, very, very short break. Brace yourself, lads, and then we're going to talk K-League Survivor. So don't go anywhere. Really don't. It's going to be 4 seconds. Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. Yes, so it is K-League Survivor. As we've discussed, I've lost another life by picking Gangwon. Well, tactic is not paying off this week, but I think before we go into our picks for the weekend, we should probably go through the games of round 9. So in K-League 1, we have Daejeon Hana Citizen at home to FC Seoul. That'll be followed by Gimcheon Sangmu hosting Gangwon FC and Gwangju FC hosting Suwon FC. Then on Sunday, Pohang Steelers welcome Incheon United to the Steelyard. Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors take on Daegu FC, and Ulsan will be hoping to bounce back against Jeju United at the Munsu Stadium. And in K-League 2, the matches that we'll be looking forward to have Seoul Eland at home to Chungnam Asan, Busan iPark at home to Ansan Greeners, Cheonan City at home to Gimpo Citizen, Jeonnam Dragons are hosting FC Anyang, Suwon Samsung Blue Wings are hosting Gyeongnam, and Jeonbuk Cheongju are at home to Bucheon FC 1995. Some interesting games there. We're not going to go through each one of them because we are running very late on the podcast. What a surprise. But I'd like just to give me what game you'll be looking forward to this weekend. Andrew, will you be going to any games or will you be tuning into any of these?
I won't be going to any games, but I will be tuning into Gwangju against Suwon, 4:30 p.m. on Saturday in Gwangju. As you know, my blood runs for Gwangju, my Korean hometown. They are 11th. They've lost 5 straight. This is the worst run of form out of any team in the top 2 divisions, K-League 1 and K-League 2. They've gone from 1st to 11th in no time whatsoever. On closer inspection, though, they have been somewhat unlucky. Out of those 5 games that they've lost, all of them have been by a single goal. Pohang beat them in round 3 with a 95th minute winner, 1-0. Against Daegu at home, they were 1-0 up at halftime, lost 2-1. Incheon, sorry, I think that might have been Daegu away, but Incheon at home anyway, they were 2-0 down. They brought it back to 2-2 and then lost in the 96th minute, 3-2. Gimcheon 1-0 up at halftime, lost 2-1. And then Jeonbuk Motors, who you might remember, they lost in the last minute. Again, another 90-minute loss, 2-1. Look, their next 4 games are Suwon at home, Jeju away, Daejeon at home, and Daegu away. This is as cozy a set of fixtures as you could possibly ask for a team that just lost 5 in a row. But they do need to start winning as soon as possible, or we might not hear so much expletives and weird ranting and screaming from the sidelines at the Gwangju Stadium, which is really popular when you watch television in Korea now. They like to have highlight packages of. I think when it comes to Gwangju games, it's more interesting what happens off the field as opposed to what happens on the field. But I mean, Gwangju do have a great record against Suwon FC. They've won 9 out of the last 10 meetings. Last season, they won all 3 games against Suwon without conceding a single goal. And Suwon haven't won in Gwangju for 6 years. I just think that this is a game that Gwangju definitely need to win. There's a bad run of form that they're on, and they don't want to get dragged into relegation battle with Daejeon Hana Citizen. So it's time to start winning some games.
I hope you're taking notes, Paul, because both you and I will also be watching that game in close proximity again. It is one of the games picked for English commentary this weekend, hosting, both of us again. But Paul, will that be the game you will be tuning in, recommending, wanting to watch, or would you prefer to have your eyes elsewhere?
There are a few. With Gwangju, though, I want to see whether Asani plays, because he scored in a friendly for them at the weekend. I forgot who was against, but they won 5-0, and he scored. Obviously, there was some talk on Twitter of a fallout, and obviously some comments that were translated from the manager and saying that he's not fit and stuff like that. But 5 defeats in a row, he's a good player. You probably start using him. So that game is obviously one. Daejeon against Seoul. That's obviously, I'll be watching that from the studio whilst we're getting ready for the Gwangju game. And then Ulsan against Jeju. I'm doing that game on my own on Sunday on commentary. And as I said earlier, I want to see how Ulsan respond and how they take the pain of the penalty shootout loss and punish Jeju, because Jeju will be worried, I think, having probably watched the ACL semi-final on Wednesday night, and we think, oh no, we're going to get a battering here. So yeah, there's a few games that should be quite interesting to watch this weekend.
Yeah, I think Gimcheon Gangwon actually is the one for me, and not because I'll be picking Gimcheon, but I obviously Gangwon had a very good result last weekend. Gangwon doing well in the table. Gimcheon, 0-0 at the weekend, but they have been playing some very good attacking football. They've been passing the ball well. They move well with it in transition. They move quickly. I really like what they've been doing. I think their position in the table is actually well deserved at the moment. I think that game has all the potential to be an exciting one. So again, another 0-0 probably in Gimcheon. But yes, we've kind of touched on it here. K-League Survivor, some of us are still in it, some of us are not. But for those who are still playing, or for those who are just playing along for fun, you've got to pick a team that you haven't picked already this season not to lose. As well noted, I've chosen every team that Gangwon has faced and now paying the price with my last life. But before I give my pick for the weekend, Andrew, you're still in it. Which team will you not be hoping to lose this weekend?
When you're reading out the results earlier on, a bad memory, the shiver went down my spine thinking of Songnam FC 1-0 up at halftime. They threw away that result. They lost 2-1 at home to Jeonbuk Cheongju, which is an awful result. I don't care what anybody says. That is a dreadful result, especially a team that we thought had a good chance of getting promoted. So I'm glad I don't have to deal with Songnam FC again for the rest of the season. There's a lot of interesting picks here. I've already taken care of Pohang, who are top of K-League 1. So you have to think tactically about this. Busan I-Park have lost all 4 games at home this season, but they're playing against Ansan Greeners this weekend. And no matter how well people think Ansan has started the season, they're 12th. Would you believe it? They are where they finished last season. Surely, if you're going to break your losing streak at home, you couldn't ask for a better fixture than Ansan Greeners. So, Busan I-Park, bring it home.
Yeah, well, actually, no, you're kind of selling me on that, actually. But Paul, will you be also opting for Busan, or do you have your eyes elsewhere?
That was the game I was going to pick too. I think Busan will definitely not lose at home to Ansan Greeners. They might not win, but they definitely won't lose at home to Ansan Greeners. So yeah, that is my pick.
All right. Well, I think I want to go for K-League 2 because it'd be a shame to go out of this competition having not dabbled with any K-League 2 teams. Busan was actually my pick as well because I just don't see them losing. Whether I'll go with that, we'll see when the picks
the Blue Wings. The Blue Wings are unlikely to lose to Gyeongnam. You would have thought as well. There's probably a couple of decent ones. Yeah, there's a couple of decent K-League 2 ones that seem like a dead cert. But the Busan against, I don't know what the odds would be on that, but 1 to 100, there's not a chance that Busan are going to lose at home this weekend.
Well, there you go, Busan fans. Don't turn up. It's going to be a horrific defeat. We've jinxed it. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I have seen that Luke has just sent over the K-League Survivor, so that will be up on Patreon tomorrow for all the people who are playing. Please get your picks in before the first kickoff of the weekend. As for us, I've been Matthew Binns. Thank you again to Paul Neat and Andrew Farrell. Ulsan are at the Champions League. It's K-League. Dreams of being an Asian champion dashed once more for another edition. But plenty of K-League still to be watching. That's all from us. Thanks so much for listening. Jae-chul-sun. See you soon. Bye-bye.
정조선 공동 복격기 김신